Hey everyone, I feel like it's been a while since I've just sat down and talked more candidly about everything and anything. So I asked you guys to send me some questions over on Threads and YouTube and Instagram, and I'm going to sit down and just non-script my answers and see what we come up with. And hopefully this is valuable and somewhat interesting for those that care. Also, thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Question number 1 from Roland Kaufman. Do you ever feel like being a YouTuber is a hindrance to your photography? The time it takes to shoot, edit, publish my videos is time I could be out mastering my photo making skills. Just wondering if that ever crosses your mind as well. This has definitely crossed my mind, and the way I like to think about it is if I wasn't making YouTube videos, filming, editing, research, talking about camera gear, if I wasn't doing this, what I'm doing right now, and I was just out taking photographs more, I would probably be 20 or 30% better. Would that trade-off of being a better photographer improve my life compared to the time I spend making these YouTube videos and working on video projects, etc.? And I don't think it would be. Being more balanced in my interests, spending time working on YouTube videos, filming videos like this, working in the real world as a videographer, there's more wisdom and experience and interesting things to gain from that rather than just being solely interested in spending my time on photography. Yes, I probably would be a better photographer if I didn't make YouTube videos, but I'm happy with the current arrangement of my time spent. Michael Boyle MS2ID. What is your favorite place you've got to shoot at? I would definitely say London, first of all. I'm incredibly grateful that London is on my doorstep. The people, the diversity, the seasons, the history, the culture, the architecture. I think it's truly one of the best cities in the world. But remove London from the equation, I would say Istanbul was pretty interesting. And obviously New York City, which was wild as well. There is an endless amount of places I want to visit, but Istanbul was certainly one of the most interesting places. George Holden Media, fellow YouTuber, hello mate. What are your top 3 triggers in street photography? Definitely gestures and color and light. Maybe that's it. That sounded way too simple to answer. I think it definitely depends on the situation you're in and where you are. Gestures for sure. People doing things. I think that has to be number 1. And then color and light, depending on where I am and what the weather is saying. Something like that. Paul Hodgson 7454. What is your hit rate on the M11P? Have you found it improving as time goes on? So there's maybe 2 questions here. What is my hit rate on the M11P? If I go out for a full day of street photography, I might take 600 raw photographs and I probably keep 20 of them, and maybe sometimes none of them are very good, but then hopefully there's 1 or 2 that I really like. And then throughout the year, when I look back, there's probably 5 or 6 really good ones that I'm super pleased with. But is my hit rate on the M11P improving? I don't know if it's improving because of the M11P or just improving generally because I'm going out more. I don't know how to answer that question. Hopefully I am improving, but I think my hit rate is only measured against my expectation of what I think is good, right? So if I take 600 photographs, 3 years ago, I might have considered keeping 100 of them and be really pleased with 25 of them. But now I will go out for a full day, take 600 photographs and be pleased with 2 or 3 of them. It's different every time. That's a tough one to answer. Hopefully we're all improving if we're staying focused and we're passionate about this thing and we're spending all this time doing it. Hopefully as the years go on, the graph goes up, right? But I don't think the camera has anything to do with it. I think it probably has a little bit to do with it. But yeah, just going out there and doing your best is way more important than the gear you're using. Vicky Allen, do you have a favorite season for your photography, Mike? Spring? Autumn? Is that a little bit cliche? Probably. The summer is probably too hot and the winter is too cold. So somewhere in the middle of that. It's October at the time of recording this and it's actually been really nice recently and I've enjoyed going for morning walks and shooting in every condition really. So October, I think September, October, and then May, June. They're quite cool. Derek Gameplay asks 3 questions. What is your go-to beverage and why is it Dr. Pepper? Dr. Pepper is the best fizzy drink of all time. I don't really drink fizzy drinks at all anymore, but if I had to, it would be Dr. Pepper. It's the best. Where do you reckon your love for photography started? through BMX and skateboarding when I was 13, 14, 15. I loved skateboarding and taking and actually skateboarding and riding BMX and things like that. But then when I started taking photographs of my friends doing it, I thought, this is even cooler. So, and you get injured less. And number 3, what is one tip or trick that is less known relating to your style of photography that you can share? Tip or trick related to my style? I haven't really got an answer for that that's not something cliche or something that could be considered in a, here's 5 street photography tips for taking better photographs. I don't know, just time and effort put in. I think you will reap rewards if you just do it more. I don't think there's any quick fixes or hacks or tricks. The reality is you just need to take a lot of photographs, look at why they're rubbish or why they're good, and evaluate from there. Soon1704. What are some of the best coffee shops in London? I'm coming from Vienna, Austria for the weekend in November. Hopefully to take some good pictures. Okay, best coffee shops. Flat White in Soho, Watch House, Monmouth, Roslyn, Hagen, Ozone. On that note, I am actually working on a London street photography guide, and this will be released hopefully before the end of the year. And this is less of a generic London guide. This will be like very catered to me and how I spend my time in London. So in this guide, I will be including my favorite coffee shop spots as well. So that'll be fun. Hopefully that'll be out soon and you can spend the day in London as if you were walking in my shoes. In this guide, I'm going to go through my favorite routes, the places I stop at, the places I walk through, my favorite streets, the time of day to visit these places, the lighting conditions, etc., etc. So keep an eye out for more London photography guide related stuff. I should be releasing that soon. Moving on to questions submitted on Threads, we have Tim D. Jameson, another fellow YouTuber and photographer. Hello, mate. If you could spend the day with one photographer, past or present, who would it be and why? I think Joel Merowitz. Yeah, let's just go with Joel Merowitz because I think that's like an easy answer. And the reason I'm like passive about that answer is because I think the best people to spend time with day to day, or even just for one day, is the people that you shoot with normally, or the people that I shoot with normally are just my good friends that I'm out with all the time. And if they're watching this video, you know who you are. I think it's better to just spend time with people on a similar journey to you. I don't want that to sound really cheesy, but spending the day with someone like a legend, like Carter-Bresson, that would be cool. But I don't know if would we get on? Would we relate in any way, or would he just be teaching me things all day? If it's a workshop, then sure, I'd love to go on a Gary Winogrand workshop or a Jeff Mermelstein workshop, sure. For one day, I guess that would be good. But I think the correct answer to this question is actually surrounding yourself with friends that are on a similar journey and are just as passionate and that you can bounce ideas around with. And the idea of figuring something out and progressing alongside your friends, I think that's fun. And my friends that I normally shoot with, you guys, if you are watching this video, you know who you are. I think that is something that I'm eternally grateful for, that I have friends doing stuff in a similar manner to me. But yeah, spending a day with a Joel Merowitz or, a legend of that caliber, that'd be pretty cool. I'd just like to take a moment to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Squarespace have been my go-to platform for hosting all of my online work, from selling books to selling digital products to writing blogs, writing a weekly newsletter, hosting all of my photography. Everything I need for my photography business, Squarespace can offer. If you're a little bit cautious of creating a website, Squarespace have hundreds of amazing templates to choose from, and when you're editing them, it really is as simple as drag and drop. Or you can even use Squarespace's new design intelligence, where AI can give you a helping hand and do most of the heavy lifting. Why not at least start a free trial and see what you think? After that, when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Mike Chudley to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Now, let's get back to the video. JP asks, ironically, JP is one of the people I'm referring to in my previous answer. JP says, what would be the advice you would give yourself right now? And this is following on from a conversation that me and JP had recently, where I was listening to a podcast and someone said, the answer to the question, what advice would you give your younger self, is probably the answer that you need right now as well. So, what advice would I give my younger self? Also, what advice would I give myself right now? Probably to stay consistent and maintain a healthy level of focus. I think that's important to me, and this is getting quite philosophical here, but if I'm going to do something intense or that requires more focus than other things, if I can't keep that up for 6 months, I don't know if it's worth doing for that week. I'm much of a believer that if you can do something and turn it into a habit, that will reap more rewards than just doing something with a lot of focus once. I think that's advice that I need right now. Instead of doing too much, just do enough of the right stuff and be consistent with it. I think, if that makes sense in any way, I would tell my younger self the exact same thing. Just pick a few things that matter, do them really well, and try and be consistent. And the reason I say that is based off of my experience with YouTube and things. So a lot of people start YouTube channels, they burn out, they make 50 videos, and then they just take a year off. They obviously couldn't keep that level of consistency up. And I just think if you want to do something well and you want to keep something up for a longer time, you have to stay consistent. So yeah, not burning out, I think, is a skill set. And I might burn out, who knows? But I'm pleased that I've managed to make weekly videos, especially on YouTube, for 4 years now, and we're going strong. So keep that up is my goal. I don't necessarily care that if I get 1 million subscribers or 100,000 views on every video. If I can just show up every week, that would be a win for me. So thanks, JP, for that super philosophical question. What advice would you give yourself right now? It would be to stay consistent and focus on the things that matter, even if it's a select few of them. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk. Mungo JJD. Will you shoot film again after your time with the MP a few months ago? If so, will you use a Leica camera or another brand? Yes, I would like to shoot more film. It would definitely be an MP or an M6. I think those cameras are wonderful. It's more just the weather. As light disappears in England now, it just gets worse and worse and rainier for the next few months. Shooting film just doesn't look as good, and maybe I'm just thinking of excuses, but when I shoot film, I want it to look nice and I want it to be special. Maybe I'm just like romanticizing it a little bit. But in summer, you can shoot Portra 400 and it's just great, okay? So maybe when the season comes back round again and spring and summer next year, I'll probably shoot film again. Maybe I'm just a fair weather film photographer. Post More Pictures asks how to select photos which will work best on IG. I would recommend not doing that. I would select your photographs that you like the most, not the photographs that you think will work best on IG. It depends what your goal is here. If you're trying to sell yourself to the devil, then find out what's trendy on Instagram and edit and take photographs just like those trendy people, and maybe you'll get some likes and follows. But I really don't think about that anymore. I definitely did 5 years ago. I cared about that, but yeah, just the photographs you enjoy, post those if you want. Or don't. Do whatever. Retro Pixar says, if suddenly it was outlawed to photograph people in the streets, how would your style and subject matter change? Good question. I've thought about this because people might be somewhat recognizable, or they definitely are somewhat recognizable in my photographs. The idea of privacy, I do think about it because I never want to make someone stand out that then portrays a bad image on them. And I would hate for someone to find an image of themselves on my Instagram or YouTube or something and not like it. That is something I think about, but I also can't control their opinion of the photograph, right? So I'm going to continue creating the work and not let that bother me, but I would be lying if I didn't consider it a tiny bit. So if the government said you cannot take photographs of people with recognizable faces, I would just shift that style. However, now I'm thinking about it, I think I probably would still do it, but I just wouldn't share it because I think documenting the world is still important. So if the government said you cannot photograph people and so they're recognizable and it was illegal, I'd probably just do it and no one would know. And then at a later date when I'm dead, people can find that work themselves, and whether they think it's good or not, they can decide. But I think it's important that we continue to document the world. But on a more basic level, if you couldn't do that, then I would just I'd just switch the style up a little bit and shoot more abstract and have more, I would just switch it up, I would continue doing it for sure. But part of me's thinking I would probably continue doing it anyway and not share it and then let my work speak for itself in years to come when I can't be punished for it. So yeah, in some parts of the world, I think Germany, maybe, comments, let me know if I'm right or wrong there, you can't photograph people. I'm not sure. Thankfully, in London, we're all okay for that. Jerry Cliff, top 3 movies of all time. This always changes depending on the day that you ask, but Fight Club, The Dark Knight, Interstellar. That'll do for now. Dr. Sebastian Oakley, how often do you change the resolution on the M11P? Having used the M11 and the M11D, I never saw the need as yet, but wondered if you ever have seen the advantage changing to the lower megapixel settings. I do change it between medium and large, so 36 megapixels and 62, is it, I think? I'm currently shooting at large. Sometimes I change it to 36. I can't even really give you a reason for it. My initial reason early on was if I was shooting for myself, doing street stuff and personal stuff and just normal documentation of life, then it was 36 megapixels because that's sufficient. But as of recently, I've enjoyed the larger files. I've enjoyed the quality of the larger files and cropping around and playing a little bit. So I don't think it matters. Currently I'm shooting in 62 megapixels, but I might shoot at 36 tomorrow. Who knows? Sukaiholia. Sorry, I butchered that. Hi Mike, how do you feel about the categorization of photographers such as street, portrait, documentary, fine art, etc., etc.? Amazing street photographs such as Joel Merowitz did it all. I think you're asking, how do I feel about the categorization of, the labels given to photographers? And I don't care about it. I think it's useful for the internet and ease of conversation and small talk. If you just say you do street photography, that pretty much explains what you do. If you want to talk about it in more philosophical depth, then call it what you want and use whatever language you want. I think words matter less in art than the art itself. I don't mean to, that sounds like I'm trying to quote something profound. I'm really not, but the images should speak for themselves, and however that photograph makes you feel, I think that's important. The label you give it, I don't think that matters. And if people want to call me a street photographer, they can. If they want to call me a landscape photographer, they can. I really don't care. Developing Tank asks, since you started shooting Leica, which do you think it improved more? Your photography or the experience you have making photography? The experience, 100%. Shooting on a Leica is wonderful to use. The tactileness, the manualness, the simpleness, it's all great. I don't think it affects the photographs themselves. Or maybe it does have a little bit of an effect because you're more likely to pick the camera up because the experience is nice. So there might be a little bit of correlation and not causation, but my photography hopefully would have improved over the years regardless of what system I used. I like to think. We don't know the answer to that question, but definitely the experience. The experience is the reason to shoot Leica in my opinion, not the results that it might deliver, because you could still be a terrible photographer, and if the experience is great, then wonderful, but if the images are still bad, then the images are still bad. So it's a tough one to answer, and I don't think we'll ever know the full correct answer, but definitely the experience since I've started shooting Leica has improved. Moving on to my Instagram story, there was so many responses to this. I'm going to try and keep this brief and fly through some here. Ginger Photography Guy, hey Jack, how often do you record a video only not to publish it? This has happened in the last 4 years. This has happened 3 times maybe. I did a flash street photography video and I didn't like how that turned out. And I can't remember what the other 2 videos were. Something similar to this. I filmed a couple of these type of videos and didn't think that they were good enough to go on YouTube. I don't know. Hopefully this doesn't happen with this one. But yeah, it's happened, but not too often. Louis Hunter, or Lou X Hunter, why film? Because it looks pretty. Alexandros.visuals, have you ever used the RICO GR3? I'd love to see you use it for a video. I haven't, and when I've seen other people use it, it doesn't look fun. There's the lack of viewfinder makes it feel a bit clinical. It might be great and deliver good results, but the experience of it doesn't seem, it's not appealing to me. But if I used one, maybe my opinion would change. DLN Pencil Portraits, how do you get continuity between colors/edits when viewing from different devices? You can't control other people's devices and what they're viewing it on or how they're viewing it, but everything on my end is consistent. I use a studio display and a MacBook and an iPhone, so everything I use is Apple. Hopefully it's consistent for me, and it is. So I use presets and I edit all of my photographs very similar, so the consistency on my end is the only thing I can control. I can't control how other people view it, so I don't really think about it too much. Alban's album, which photographer inspired you the most? I think Matt Stewart. When I started diving into street photography a little bit more in recent years, I came across Matt's work maybe 4 years ago, and I was blown away by his London street photography, and just seeing London through his perspective in general just lit a fire. And that, I think Matt's work was a good milestone from my perspective and a anchor in my interest in photography. As soon as I saw Matt's work, I started diving further down that path, if that makes sense. Before I was really doing street photography, I was just a guy in the city taking photographs of London. But then I saw Matt's work and I started diving into the history and the culture of street photography. And then, you know, I'm lost now. It's just endless. But yeah, I think Matt Stewart, go to you. Hello, mate. He asks 28 or 35 and why? So I'm battling between them both on a day-to-day basis, but I think I'm leaning towards 28 more. And I prefer how 28 renders life. I think it's just more real life. It's more, that's what happened. It's less composed and manufactured. And I made a video all about this, but 35, it is similar to 28, but I think it's just a little bit more boring. It depends on the image, right? It depends on the situation, depends on what is happening in the photograph. But I think 28 is natural, more authentic. Something like that. I don't know how I feel about it. That's how I'm feeling about it right now, but that might change in 6 months. So 28 for me. As.tall_, your one best piece of advice to get better at street photography. Go out as much as possible and take as many photographs as possible. I think it's just reps and sets. Nico.rupee asks, did anyone ever attack you physically or verbally because you took their photo? No one's ever touched me. No one's ever got physical. And I've had maybe 2 or 3 somewhat negative interactions. I've had one very negative interaction, and this was actually in New York, and we were on the ferry. I was taking a photograph of a wider scene in general, and there was a few people in the scene, but this one person was just having a bad day, and they got very verbal. There was a few other photographers on the same boat, and he also got verbal and quite aggressive to a few other people as well. So I don't think it was me specifically that he was angry with. I think he was just having a bad day. And then when he was getting off the boat as well, he was barging past a few people, quite aggressive with the general public as well. So that was a negative interaction that wasn't nice, but he was just not having a good day generally. So I don't think it was the photography that annoyed him the most. I think it just maybe tipped him over the edge. I've taken photographs of people before and they've mumbled under their breath, like nothing super negative though. They've just kind of questioned it or covered their face to make sure they don't appear in the photograph. But it's always received with, I'm normally smiling, or I will mumble some words back of reassurance that what I'm doing is, you know, I'm friendly. So body language is important. And I think that's why from the hundreds of thousands of pictures probably now, I've never really had anything bad happen. How you present yourself matters a lot. And eye contact is important. Matt Stewart actually gave me some advice about not wearing sunglasses because people can't see your eyes. And if people can't see your eyes, they can't really read your facial expression as much, and they don't know where you're looking or what you're doing. And if people can see your eyes, then they can see that you're probably a little bit more friendly. Yes, I try and make eye contact if it appears that people are not happy with the situation, or if they're questioning the situation, I kind of just show them my face and go like, hello. But most of the time, if people are responding to me taking the photograph, it's just out of curiosity. But that rarely happens as well. I mean, it happens less than you think. If you don't go out and take street photographs and you're thinking, what's going to happen when people see me doing it? The truth is people just don't care. I think it's as simple as that. We're going to wrap things up right there. Hopefully I didn't waffle on too much and some of that was interesting or insightful or whatever. I enjoyed kind of just chatting freely here. I normally script my videos to get my point across so I'm precise and concise and accurate with my words. But for this, I've kind of just sat here and hoped for the best. And thank you to everyone who submitted questions. I appreciate the continued support and the fact that I can even sit here and make a video like this, that there are people out there that are interested. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the videos I'm gonna make to finish this year. Photography in winter is gonna be tough because it's cold, but I'm as passionate as I have ever been about photography. So I wanna try and end this year strong. And I'm going to continue working on my London photography guide, and I'll share more updates soon. If you want to hear from me more often or more candid and personal like this, then please sign up to my newsletter, The Focal Point. I send out an email once a week just with random musings and ramblings from the previous week. So yeah, subscribe to that if you would like, and also subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.